Your play, Memory Beads. What is it about specifically?
No, it's about the fear of losing your memory. When you lose your memory, how much of your memory is tied into your identity. So it's also about identity and what makes up identity. That's generally, specifically, it's about a character who who who, who knows that memory loss and Alzheimer runs in her family. So she this it's actually a fear that she will get it. And so is it inevitable or is there something you can do about it? Is the question. And if it's inevitable, then how can she prepare for it?
What is the point of using beads as a motif in your play? Is it an Okinawan tradition or something in general?
It's in general. It more reflects the character, the modern character, who 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 is trying to piece together the stories that comprise her life, the stories that she remembers that she believes makes her life interesting, and she's kind of like beating them together. So it's kind of like a narrative tool to string the different pieces together.
How are your characters or the situations they are in the beads that connect the string of memories together?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How are your characters or the situations they are in the beads that connect the string of memories together?
Um, you know, there was a time when I did not know the answer to that, and and then I knew, and then I forgot. Because I remember putting all the scenes on index cards and then trying to see what the connection was between one and another. And it could be a loose connection, but there was always some kind of connection. And I wish I could find those cards in the order I put them in and my notes on them. And then I would tell you more specifically what the connections were. But there was sort of like when you're kind of daydreaming and then things pop up and on the surface it doesn't appear that there's a connection, but so you keep looking for what is the connection because on the surface you don't know what the connection is. So you say, God, why did that come up? And then you think about it. It could be something like universal, like a feeling or a thought, like feeling of loss or feeling of longing or a feeling of childhood, or something like that. But there was always something, but it wasn't always evident. So but there was always going to be some kind of way that they connected to each other, but the audience is not going to know it. As a writer, I used to know it. I did know it at one time, but because it happens, the audience is not going to have time to think about what's that have to do with that. I gave a talk at the Okinawa Genealogy Society a couple of weeks ago, and I knew because a lot of people, if people are theater goers or even if they're readers, then there's a certain structure that people are used to. Or even moviegoers, it's like a main character has a challenge, and then the main character has to overcome the challenges in order to reach a goal. So I wanted to tell them that this is not that you might get confused by the structure of the play because it doesn't follow that linear trajectory. That is so that I said that I'm going to help you to appreciate the story. You just my advice to you is just take each scene one story at a time. Look at each scene as a story and not try to piece it together with what came before or what can come after. Just kind of like simply say, oh, I see this little girl wants to be a nurse when she grows up, that kind of a thing. So, and then I said, in the end, I hope that it kind of like falls into place. That's my hope, that in the end it will fall into place. And so I told them, and if it doesn't, then come and talk to me.
What makes the relationships between the characters from one generation connect to the next, and so on? Why is this important for Joni, Liana, and Haruko in particular?
What's the main part of the question?
What makes the relationships between the characters from one generation connect to the next, and so on? And the second part of the question is, why is this important for Joni, Liana, and Haruko?
I think it's a human thing. When you do have children, I mean, a lot of people don't have children, choosing not to have children, choose not to have children. But when you do choose to have children, it seems to be that there's like a sense, and it could be just unconscious or subconscious, a sense that you want to have a piece of you live on after you're gone. That there's a way for you to connect to the future and be a part of the future through your children. And I don't know if it's a conscious thing, because it just seems it's like a thing that we don't even think about. That's like, oh, I have my biological clock is ticking. I should have it. I really always wanted to be a mom, so I'm gonna, I'm going to do that. That's going to be a goal in my life. Right? So, it's like, so that's your biological clock thinking, gosh, I really always wanted this. I'm going to do it. Sometimes it's that you want someone to take care of you when you're old, because you know that when your parents got old, that you took care of them. So then you think, gosh, when I get old, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to be taken care of?
I know, because I'm a caretaker of my parents too.
But how it's not that old?
Mother is about to turn 72, and father is about to turn 77.
But are they sick? Is that why you're the caretaker?
No, they're not getting any younger.
Mm.
That's why.
But they're okay right now.
They're okay.
They're healthy.
They're healthy enough.
They can walk,
Yes.
drive.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe in 10 years it will be harder right now because they're still independent, right?
Oh, I already know it's like, because it's harder, because mom almost died from cancer.
Oh, yeah. So she's a survivor.
Yes, stage 2 breast cancer, 2021. Yep. Now, your play not only features history, but also mythology. The legend of Sato, or Janamoi, is an interesting subplot, considering it took place during the Three Kingdoms era, arguably the most chaotic and violent era before Ryukyuan unification. How is this relevant to the family history of Joni, Liana, and Haruko?
On a superficial level, not a symbolic level, but on a superficial level, it really is when they got their genealogy done, it was really connected to that, really did connect to that story. And it got her because of that story, it got her really interested in history and genealogy. So that because of the genealogy being made, it got her interested before the genealogy was revealed, released, or uncovered. She just kind of like lived her life. But once when the genealogy was distributed, her uncle had it made. It was like so interesting. This is so interesting, and how can it be? How can it be true? You know, and you know, wanting to find out if it was true or not, and you know, it's crazy. This is crazy. But that's just on a surface level. On a symbolic level, um, it's a good question. That it kind of when the genealogy was found, it only idealized our origins to Sato. So it didn't. So when you like people that are descended from King Kamehameha, they idolize and they idealize King Kamehameha, and they don't they. But then the people that are descended from that king in the Big Island that he defeated, can't remember his name right now, they idealize him, and then they say that that from their perspective, King Kamehameha wasn't that great, you know. So it's because they idealize their ancestor, So it's sort of like that. So it's all Joni knows is King Sato's history, not anybody else's history, not the other two kingdoms. They do know that he was defeated, and then they how they see him though, King Sato, is that he was a good king. That he was responsible for opening up trade to China, and this is why Okinawa has a lot of Chinese influences in their art and the architecture and in the shisha dolls. I mean the dogs, shisha dogs, and that's attributed to King Sato. So they don't know much about the other two kings. They do know that he was defeated by Shohachi, but they don't really care because King Sato in their eyes that's our ancestor. That's our ancestor. We're descended from that ancestor. And that ancestor was made a good impact, positive impact.
Yeah. So, in the play and in the myth in the play, the celestial maiden mother disappears after wearing her robe. In a historical context, this is a metaphor for her dying of an unforeseen affliction as Ane and Sato came of age. Now, that being said, and considering that the myth itself is a coping mechanism for trauma, what is the importance of Ane and Sato surviving, or should I say, how is it that their decision to keep living and look towards the future be the first bead that is strung?
It's just that it is, that it is. It is, the one, I guess, dominant theme, which is it's not throughout, is the relationship between mothers and their children. In this case, it was mothers and the daughter and the son. But in most of the modern story, it's between mother and daughter. And my focus was on the decision. It was like she made a conscious decision to leave, and it appears to be that how do you reconcile that? Right? How can you forgive somebody for abandoning you? But if you look at it as a metaphor for she died, she went to heaven, then that makes it so you can look at it, you can interpret it both ways, but so I kind of like leave that up to the audience to interpret, but like because on the one hand, it's like, why would a mother do that? And I never articulate that she died, she's leaving. But even when you die, sometimes you feel like they're abandoning you, even though they're sick. Like, why can't you stay? It's better, even though it's not their fault. You still have that feeling. The feeling still feels like abandonment. So. So I guess I knew she was going to go, that she was gonna leave. So I guess my focus was to try to make the kids understand. I think I can still work on that more. Like, especially I think Sato's is okay. I'm not sure about Anya, and maybe that could be the actress. That maybe she's it's like she's too understanding, and maybe she should be less understanding. She should be more resistant to the idea, but she maybe, so I kind of like struggle with that. So maybe she's because she is older, so she does have the role of an older sister, so she is more mature. So she is going to take up the responsibility of being a mother, you know. But so I don't know. I kind of, that's how I did it. That's how I resolved it. But I think when I'm watching rehearsal, I'm thinking, God, she's too understanding. Ani's too understanding. I'm not going to change it at this point, but just like that's the things that I think about when I'm watching.
Okay. You mentioned that Memory Beads is a play about Alzheimer's disease. From my own experience, I've actually had two grandmothers right now die from complications to Alzheimer's disease. In fact, one of them died 2 months ago.
Oh, really? I'm so
Yes.
sorry to hear that.
It's all right. It's all right.
Is she here in Hawaii?
Yes. But what I want to ask is, why is it important for you to emphasize this fact?
Gosh, I mean, so many people. See, everybody I talk to says they have this experience in their family, or and so I guess, and it's so devastating. It's devastating with the people that go through this. I was lucky because my mom did not have Alzheimer's. She just had memory decline. But my grandmother, she really did, and it was hard. It was hard on my uncle to take care of her. But so many stories. So many people have these stories. And it's like probably easier to find people that do have stories than people that don't have stories about this. So every time I mention it, somebody will say, "Oh yeah, I know that's my grandparents. That's happened. That's my auntie," or they're always and it was so hard. So I think that so far there's no cure. There but I think if the one thing that I'm hoping that will be helpful is to um, not be so hard on yourself, and not try so hard as a caregiver. Not try so hard for them to fit into the mold that you want them to be. It's like your when they start having memory loss and Alzheimer's, especially, they're not the same person that you grew up knowing and loving. They've just become a different person. But sometimes when it's in extreme cases, they, for one thing, they don't know who you are. That could happen. That never happened to me, but that could happen.
That happened to me, actually. It was the second grandmother that died.
Yeah. And so for you to just feel sad about it is, but not to feel like um, you want to do something um, to help them, because there's not much you can do except to help them, like help them get fed and things like that. But you can't change their brain. You can't give them. And my brother watched this YouTube on like miracle cures or something, and he really thought that he could cure her. So they was living in Guam, and he bought into this whole like vitamin thing, and it was regimen. He said he was told by God that he's had to go and give this treatment because we weren't doing it, because we didn't believe it. So he did, and it didn't work. Of course, it didn't work. So it's like, so rather than think that that you can do something, and maybe I really don't, I mean that didn't work. Did not work. So it was like alternative medicine kind of a thing. It wasn't like scientific. So so rather than be anxious about thinking that you can provide the cure, or even like in the play, you have to take care of your health, like don't eat, watch your diabetes, and don't eat, have a plant-based diet, stuff like that. It's, when that causes anxiety, like in that last scene, that causes anxiety to the person. That's not good. You're taking away the quality of life from that person. She wants ice cream. She's 90 years old. She wants ice cream. Give her ice cream. That kind of thing. So that's kind of like what I hope to get across is, don't be anxious about it. Just be loving about it.
So, if there is one overarching message you would want to convey about the play, what is it?
That's what I just told you. What I just said was, if you are in that position where you have to take care of, or that you with a somebody that you love that is suffering from Alzheimer's, to be as loving as you can towards them and not try to control them. Make them happy. Their happiness is the most important thing, not the doctor's orders. Their happiness is the most important thing. So try to improve their quality of life as much as possible, although it's really hard. I know it's hard. Like my mom would, she always wanted to go riding, so I take her for a drive. And then she'd forget that I take her for a drive. So then hour later, she'd say, I like go holo holo. So, Mom, we just, and I have, I mean, I'm retired, but I have things to do too, And then she'd get mad at me because she didn't believe me that we just went out an hour ago, So, so I can't, I couldn't, but it's rather than, I guess, be mad at her for not remembering. And so I guess if somebody had told me that, I might have been more patient, or maybe find another solution. I don't know, because I was the only one there. There's 6 of us, and I was the only one living in Kona, so I couldn't call on my siblings to take her for a ride. Your turn to take her for a ride. Nobody else there, just me. I don't know. Could have, maybe I could have, if I thought about it, maybe I could have found another solution. But I would just get frustrated, and she would just get mad. So that's the one message is to not to be like Joni, because in that last scene with Joni, where she said, you should eat plant-based, you should not eat ice cream, you should to not be like that, but just be more like Liana. Liana is more like, here's, you can have ice, I'll get you ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that memories are important, that your family stories, your family memories, your own memories, cherish them. They're important. Don't say that, oh, that happened long ago. Stories are important. So don't forget your story. So I always feel sad for people who like, oh, I don't remember my childhood. So you don't have any childhood stories, like it's like you should have stories. You should have your life stories. Life stories. So your stories of your life build your life. It's your life. You have no stories of your life. Do you have a life?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are important, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, why should we even care about this play and its message?
Well, why should you care about anything that people put out into the world to share? It's the hope is that by sharing, you make connections with each other, and that by making connections with each other, there is it's a way to build community. It's a way to bridge isolation. So one of the very sad symptoms of aging is isolation. And that's one of the things about my Hanafuda group is that Helen said that's why she is so she's not just her cards that she is promoting. She's using the cards to promote community because she recognizes that lack of community is is not is not healthy for that person and for society in general. So arts builds community, especially theater. You have not only the 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 people involved in the productions, but and the theater itself, but also the people that come to see. That's a community. It's people that, in Kuma's case, it's people that want to support local playwriting theater. So that's a community. There's other communities like Diamond Head Theater. Then their community is more, like a community of people that like theater in general, musical theater or theater that's not really local, but it's more American, that's a different kind of community. But I imagine that they have a community within themselves. I don't know. I don't go to Diamond Head Theater. It's like not my neighborhood, it's not really my interest. I do go to Manoa Valley when I see a good play is that they're doing. That's another community too. So I think I think that if you find if somebody is offering something that you're interested in, and then by supporting them, by attending that interest, then you're making connections to building community, and then that I think that one of the sad things about modern life is lack of community. So anything that you can do to build community, whatever little thing that you can do is a good thing.
Okay. One last question. Suppose in the future, Diane, 5 generations down Liana's line, or 5 generations down your own line, those memory beads become old, cracked, and faded, with the cords that bind them a bit looser. How would you ensure that despite such a state, they would stay intact for posterity,
That is hard to answer. All I can do, think for myself as an individual is pass it down to the next generation, and then pass down to the next generation, like to my daughter, how important I think it is to preserve those memories and hope that they pass it down to the next generation after that. But there's no way for me to know. There's no way for me to know if they will or not. You can just only hope. So I just put together a book. It's a family book for my, and the name of it is A Carpenter and a Nurse. But my dad's a carpenter, my mom was a nurse, and it's just a collection of their life story, and so I published it on self publishing on Amazon. It's not available to the public. It's just I published it, and then I got copies, and then I unpublished it because I only published it for myself. And my reason for doing that is for like to answer that question is to pass down the family history to the next generation. I don't know what they're gonna do. But my mom with our house, she wanted it to stay in family hands, so it's in my brother's hands now. It's who could say what's gonna happen to the next generation? I don't think it's gonna last another generation, you know. So it lasted so far 30 years, and like might last another 30 years. You know? Yeah, but so you can't really know. You can't really know beyond the next generation. You can only do for the next generation.
We can only hope.
You can only hope. Yeah. Even for the next generation, you don't really know, but you can only hope. So, yeah, we'll see.